If your initial thoughts when seeing this trailer are The Last of Us, then you're not alone, because that's exactly what I thought when I saw this first trailer for a new upcoming VR game called What Comes After. This game comes courtesy of the indie developer behind the super hot style shooter Cold VR. However, this is an episodic VR survival game. Missions take around 15 minutes, you head out, scavenge for supplies, and the supplies you manage to capture are reflected in your home base. In this game, you're trying to keep that home base running and keep the survivors who live there alive. We don't know much more than that at this stage, but I do hope the game tries to break away from this Last of Us aesthetic, because it feels like it's trying to sell itself or build hype around that. Even down to the font here. It looks like Last of Us. From the developer who gave us Windlands 1 and 2 comes the fantastic looking Titan Isles, an action-adventure game that can be played solo or with a group of up to 4 players total. This new VR game from Cytec Games looks like a spiritual successor to the Windlands titles, right down to the floating isles environments, colourful visuals, and focus on exciting traversal. Here, players can choose from between 4 different exosuits, each with its own unique form of traversal, equipment, and weapons. From this trailer, it looks as though at least one suit has a similar grappling hook mechanic as Windlands, whilst the others have jetpacks, but we'll have to wait for a deeper gameplay overview to know for sure. Now, if you've played Windlands, and you should play Windlands, you'll no doubt notice that Titan Isles looks very similar to those games, and that is definitely a good thing. However, here the focus seems to be placed more on combat and action over exploration. Titan Isles is coming to Quest and PC in 2025, and then PSVR2 in 2026. Gorilla Tag has done irreparable damage to the VR gaming industry. Look, I like Gorilla Tag, but the sheer amount of monkey-filled clones that dominate the Quest store is absolutely ridiculous. Also, why did every single clone also choose to make the characters monkeys? I have so much respect for the titles that wanted to do a similar thing, but at least chose a different creature. Do kids really love monkeys that much? I have no idea, and I digress. The next monkey arm swinging movement mechanic game that's attempting to reach kids in the masses is the geniusly titled Grand Theft Animals, a multiplayer open world game with Gorilla Tag movement systems that lets players drive cars, buy weed, beat up civilians, earn money by working jobs, and stay away from the cops. It's a cute concept, to be fair, but I'm unsure if it will appeal in quite the same way that its predecessors did. Now this is more my speed. Hidden Memories of the Gardens Between is a beautiful looking puzzle adventure game that lets you manipulate tiny dioramas by zooming in, spinning them around, rewinding time, and interacting with certain elements to lead the tiny characters that inhabit them to the puzzle's conclusion. It looks like a mix of Braid, Puzzling Places, and Toad's Treasure Tracker, and that's a blend I can definitely get behind. The game has been available as a flat experience since 2018, and although it looks just as charming flat screen, I think I'll hold off and wait until the VR version releases before playing this myself. Something about interacting with dioramas in virtual reality and leaning in to inspect all the small details really appeals to me. It's a more relaxed VR experience, and sometimes that's exactly what I'm looking for in the evenings, a nice seated puzzle game that can whisk me off to another world with its visuals and audio. Fingers crossed we get a release date soon, because I can't wait to play this. The developers behind my favourite VR survival game, Into the Radius and Into the Radius 2, are trying something very different with their next title. This is Unloop, a first-person VR puzzle game where you need to try to learn from your past mistakes to progress and survive a series of deadly trials. From this early trailer, it looks as though you'll need to make your way through some kind of sci-fi facility, but death is lurking around every corner. However, dying is actually a core part of the experience and considered a good thing here, as when you respawn, you'll be able to see your past self and learn exactly what not to do to progress further this time. I love the concept, CM Games haven't steered me wrong yet, and I can't wait to see more about Unloop as development progresses. I think it's safe to say that we now have a pretty clear picture of the next series of big hitting AAA releases that will be launching in the back half of 2025 and into 2026. Alongside Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and World War Z VR, we also have these next 3 games. First up is Thief VR, and I am beside myself with excitement for this. Not only is one of the best stealth action franchises of all time back after such a long hiatus, but it's making the leap into virtual reality, and the project is being helmed by Vertigo Games and Maze Theory, two giants in the VR dev space who know how to make a fantastic VR game. After last year's Metro VR, Arizona Sunshine remake, and the underrated Peaky Blinders VR game, I'm feeling very confident about Thief VR nailing the landing and delivering a top-tier VR experience. The first trailer doesn't show a huge amount, but it does give us enough glimpses of core Thief mechanics, like dousing flames with a well-placed arrow and hiding behind barrels, to know that this is on track to be a proper installment in this legendary franchise. Thief is launching for Quest, PC and PSVR2 later this year, much to the disappointment and dismay of those who work for PC Gamer. Up next we have Reach, an incredibly ambitious new title from Elevation at nDreams that continues the trend of nDreams pushing the boundaries of what's possible in virtual reality after the mind-blowing Synapse, which is still one of the very best VR games you can buy right now, and easily in the top 5 of my PSVR2 library. Now let me be honest with you, I have played Reach twice, at two very different stages of development, and it's crazy to see it evolve and grow like this. The trailer you're seeing right now has so many elements of the first time I played the game, but everything has developed and changed into a completely different beast entirely, and it's looking more polished than ever. Now, I can't really share much about my experiences playing Reach, as the game I played is so far removed from where Elevation and nDreams are now within the development cycle, but what I can say is this game prioritizes movement and physicality over everything else. The feeling of running, jumping, climbing, and generally traversing my way through the large, cavernous environments felt fantastic. Your character has a real weight behind them, and small details like watching your feet dangling or scrabbling to find a foothold whilst scaling a cliff really sells the experience, and it enhances the overall immersion. I can't wait to go hands-on with this one for a third time, because it looks like Reach is close to the finish line now. This one launches this year for Quest, PCVR and PSVR2, and it should be on your radar. And finally, we have the worst kept secret in all of virtual reality: Deadpool VR, coming exclusively to MetaQuest headsets this holiday season. Now, I was invited to test the game in New York a few weeks back, but sadly I couldn't make that date. And now that I've seen this gameplay trailer, I'm even more gutted I couldn't make it. This looks like it has all the hallmark gameplay elements of a classic twisted pixel game, and that has me very excited. Movement looks fluid and varied, combat looks slick, giant boss creatures make an appearance, and the visuals are suitably colourful and comic book coded. It's also great to see that the game and Deadpool's overall vibe hasn't been toned down to suit a younger audience. It looks like we're getting a bloody, gory, sweary Deadpool adventure with plenty of fourth wall breaking, and I'm all for that. The only thing I'm not super sold on at this stage is the Ryan Reynolds impression that Neil Patrick Harris is doing. I love NPH, but I would have loved to hear his version of Deadpool rather than his version of Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool. It makes sense from a marketing perspective. Reynolds is the voice who popularized Pool for a whole new and current audience, so making this version sound close to that is a no-brainer. Also, he doesn't sound bad, he sounds great. I was perhaps just expecting something a little more unique. Deadpool launches this holiday for Quest, and it's very clearly Meta's big thing for 2025. And that's everything for today's new VR games video. Another 8 titles to put on your radar, and we're really starting to see the big lineup for holiday season 2025 and into early 2026. I think we now have 4 or 5 AAA-esque games, and then loads of indie titles that also look fantastic. Things are starting to pad out. I'm much happier now. I know what's coming. Hopefully you've enjoyed. If you have, please do leave a like, leave a comment, hit subscribe, and all that good stuff. And I will see you soon for another video. Take care, everyone. See you later.